Hello from Liberia, and thank you so much for joining me today for another thought from the Bible. It's great to have you here. Now, each year I start a new Bible reading plan, like a through the Bible plan that takes me from Genesis through to Revelation in some order or other. And the plan that I have just recently started for this year has just put me into the book of Exodus. And I found myself reading the familiar story of Moses and the burning bush. Now, this was just a normal, ordinary day for this man Moses. He was just walking through the wilderness, looking after his father's sheep, when all of a sudden he sees this incredible sight. There is this bush that is on fire, but it is not burning up. And so he goes to have a look, he goes to check it out. And God himself starts speaking to him, letting Moses know that he is being sent to Egypt to be part of this amazing rescue effort for the Israelites, his own people. Now, Moses is a little bit reluctant to take on this rather epic mission, and one of the reasons for it he explains in Exodus chapter 4 and verses 1 to 2. Moses answered, "What if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, 'The Lord did not appear to you'?" Then the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he replied. The Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." So Moses threw it on the ground and it became a snake, and he ran from it, quite justifiably, I think. And it goes on, and he picks up that snake by the tail and it turns back into a staff. It's quite an amazing story. As looking up this verse, I found that in the New Living Translation of the Bible, Moses replies not just saying a staff, but by saying a shepherd's staff. In other words, nothing special, nothing out of the ordinary, just the tool of my trade. Certainly nothing supernatural, certainly nothing that can help me deliver the tens, the hundreds of thousands of Israelites from Egypt. Certainly nothing that would turn into a snake if I threw it on the ground. It's just my shepherd's staff. Now, I wonder, why did God ask him? Why did God ask him what was in his hands? God could see that, right? He could just have skipped that whole bit of conversation and just said, "Take that staff in your hand and throw it on the ground." But I think that God wanted to draw Moses' attention to what it was, just an ordinary thing. But the great thing is that God can take something that is completely ordinary, something that we don't think of as special at all, and he can make it into something absolutely extraordinary. Now, every time I've read through this passage, I've always loved this idea of God taking and using what is in our hands, because all of us have something, some gift, some talent, something that we can bring, something that we can offer. But this time, as I read through the rest of this chapter, I noticed something that I'd never really noticed before. And it was in Exodus chapter 4, verse 20, after Moses has finally, reluctantly agreed to go to Egypt. It says, "So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand." He took the staff of God. Now, wait just a minute here. This is the same staff. This was a shepherd's staff. And, at its core, that's what it still is. But now, suddenly, it is the staff of God. That is a big, big change. I think that God is consistently, constantly asking us what we have in our hands. And it's very easy to look at those things and think, well, they're not really very significant. I can't really do anything world changing with this thing that's in my hands. I'm a writer, so I guess that might be a pen, or probably more like a laptop these days. You might be a builder with like a brick in your hand. You might be a nurse with a needle. You might be an office worker with a stack of papers. We all have different things in our hands. You may feel like you have nothing in your hands right now, nothing to offer, but I can tell you that is not true, because we each of us have gifts. We each of us have talents. We each of us have responsibilities and things that we do in our days. We have different things in our hands. But when we're willing to offer those things to God, when we surrender those things in our lives to God's purposes, they become His. It's not just a pen, it's God's pen. It's not just a brick, it's God's brick, and you can build with it to His glory. It's not just a needle, it's God's needle. It's not just a stack of papers, it's God's stack of papers. You get the idea. When we offer up the normal, everyday things in our hands at God's request, then seemingly ordinary, insignificant things have the potential to become extraordinary. Writers write for Him. Builders build for Him. Nurses love and serve compassionately for Him. Office workers bring a light into that dark place as you work for God in that office that you're in. Whatever your job, whatever you are doing with your days, whatever your normal, ordinary thing is, use it for Him. Offer it to Him and it will become His. And what if we went even further than that? What if we said, God, this year that we're still on the cusp of, this is your year. I give this to you. This is God's year in my life. And if it's your year, God, then you can make this ordinary life that I am living into something extraordinary for your glory. Moses, he was just a shepherd, but he went on to shepherd an entire nation, that staff of God in his hand. Who knows what God can and will do with your gifts, with your time, with your ordinary, whatever that may be. Offer it to God, give it to Him, let it become His, and be expectant for God to move in your life in some extraordinary way. I'm so excited to see what He will do with the things that I give to Him, the things that I surrender to Him, the things that I say, these are now God's things. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope that was a little encouragement for you. I'll be back on Wednesday next week with another thought from the Bible, so I will see you then.